Hi INFJs and autistic INFJs, welcome back to my channel. For most of my life, I felt like I wasn't good enough. Like no matter what I did or how hard I tried, I always felt inadequate and I always felt like I was falling further and further behind. It was kind of like everybody else knew this secret to life that I just couldn't figure out for the life of me. But here's something that I learned. Feeling inadequate, it's not just in our head. Even though we think that it is, it's something that INFJs and autistic people are almost conditioned to feel throughout our life. And today we're going to chat about this, about why we feel inadequate, why it's not our fault, and what nobody tells us about overcoming inadequacy. So welcome to the first video of my three-part video series, Breaking Free from Inadequacy for INFJs and autistic INFJs. In this series that I'm pretty excited about, because it's kind of a big topic, but in this series I will be sharing a lot of my journey with you because I struggled with inadequacy drastically. It was a huge part of my journey that I had to overcome. So I'm going to share with you a little bit of my journey, how I felt inadequate no matter who I was around, how I stopped feeling inadequate, and lastly, why INFJs and autistic INFJs don't fit the normal life path. So we're going to cover all that in the next 3 videos. So welcome to my channel. If we haven't met before, my name's Trina. I'm an INFJ and I'm also autistic. I created this channel with hopes of helping people like myself feel seen, heard, and understood. And I wanted somewhere to share resources with other INFJs and autistic INFJs because when I started working on myself years ago, I found that a lot of the resources out there only worked a little bit for us, but there was always something missing. So when I find something that really works for an INFJ like myself or autistic INFJ, I like to share it so it's easier for people to find. So don't forget to check out the resource section in the description of this video. Welcome to my channel. I hope you find it helpful. If you're returning, I'm glad you came back. I invite you, if you haven't yet, to like this video and subscribe to my channel because I'd really appreciate the support. Okay, before we get going, INFJ meet and greet for March. Registration is still open. There's 2 dates to accommodate 2 different time zones. So if you want to connect with other INFJs and autistic INFJs in a safe place, this is a virtual event. There's no judging. You just show up as yourself. It's very relaxed, very comfy, no worry. It's so much fun and it's one of my favorite things to do because I get to meet so many amazing people. If you want more information on this, check out the link in the description of this video. It's the virtual INFJ meet and greet. Okay, let's get into talking about inadequacy. This is a huge topic for me and it's actually, I haven't talked a lot about it because it's kind of a scary topic for me to share, but I'm at a point now that I think that I can share it, and I really think that a lot of people will benefit from it. I felt very inadequate every single day of my life, especially when I got into my adult life. I felt it when I was a child as well. However, I felt more that there was something wrong with me while I was growing up. The inadequacy didn't start probably until my late teens and definitely into my adult life. But what was interesting is I didn't realize what was going on. I didn't realize that that was what was happening. That was what was holding me back. That was what was making it very difficult. The simplest life chores were very difficult for me, like going to the grocery store because I had to interact with a cashier and I felt very inadequate. And I would get flustered and that would feed it and I would feel silly, or going to the bank for a bank teller because I had to interact and I felt very inadequate and I worried that they were going to see who I really was, that belief about me, right? Everybody made me nervous. I was especially bad around authority figure type people like doctors. Going to a doctor was horrible. I felt like I was like this big, that they were way above me and I had no right being there, even though I needed their assistance for whatever was going on. So I had a really hard time explaining my issues to them. And when I did, I would flub it all up. And quite often I felt like I was getting pushed off and like that I wasn't important. My issues weren't serious. But it wasn't because that's what they were doing. That's how I was taking it. That's how I was reading the situation. And a lot of it had to do is because I couldn't verbally express what was going on because I was so flustered. And the same would happen with teachers. If I had to go to school and talk to my son's teacher, it would be the same. I would get so flabbered up, so flustered, and I would make mistakes and I would stutter because I felt so inadequate. And it followed me into my work life with my supervisors, even coworkers. So I really kept to myself with this because I was really worried that interacting with these people, they were actually going to see the true me. They were going to actually see that stupid, ugly, useless, weird girl that I've always felt, right? So this is what was going on, but I didn't know it. And it really slowed me down. It stopped me from doing anything, from taking risks, from putting myself out there, from applying for jobs that I really wanted. I was just too scared. I wanted to be invisible. That's what I wanted. I wanted nobody to see me, nobody to notice me, because then I would know for sure that they wouldn't see that true me who I thought that I was, right? And it made life very, very difficult. Like I said, even the simplest chores, such as getting groceries or ordering food, was a big deal to me because I had to talk to the attendant. And quite often the cashier at the fast food place, say if that's where I was, quite often they were teens. Yet I felt very inadequate talking to a teenager. That's how deep this rooted for me. So the root of inadequacy, why we feel it so deeply, inadequacy isn't just about low confidence. And that's what I thought it was. It's about survival. It becomes like a survival mechanism that we use. We were never meant to fit in with the majority. INFJs and autistic people, we were never meant to fit in with the majority. But we saw what would happen to those who didn't fit in. Okay? Especially the INFJ part of us, because we take in everything. We don't miss it. And we see the ridicule, the rejection, the isolation. And those were things that we experienced throughout our life. So we picked up on this rejection more intensely than other people did. So it scared us. It was really scary. And I remember thinking back now that those were some huge fears of mine because I seen it happen and I experienced it throughout my childhood. So what happened is we internalized the idea that we are wrong and that we just have to fix ourselves to be accepted. So an example of that is, for me, avoiding asking people for help, because I was scared they would see how incompetent I really was. Or struggling with authority figures because I feared that they would see through me and confirm my worst fears, that I really was that stupid, ugly, useless, pathetic, weird girl. Because that's what I thought of myself, right? Feeling anxiety in normal situations, that like daily situations at the bank or the grocery store or wherever it may be, because my brain had already decided I was inadequate. So going into that situation, that's what I already believed about myself, that I was inadequate. So it was just feeding it, right? But the truth is, I wasn't born feeling inadequate. None of us were. You weren't, I wasn't, none of us. We weren't born feeling inadequate. We were trained to feel this way by the world that constantly made us feel like we were different and wrong in so many ways. Now, I'm not saying that we should blame everybody around us and they owe us. That's not what I'm saying, because I really think everybody does the best they can do. And that was our experience, that we were made feel that we were wrong in many ways by other people. I truly don't believe that that was their intention to make us feel that way. That was just how we, what's the word I'm looking for? Perceived it. That's how we just understood it, right? Everybody perceives things so differently in the world. And I don't think that most of them intended for us to feel that way. It's just how we felt. They didn't understand the way we learned, the way we absorbed things. And I mean, quite honestly, that's fine. A lot of us as INFJs, we don't really understand how our brain works. So they did the best they could, and we did the best we could, and this was the result of it. I just wanted to put that in there, I guess, as a disclaimer, because I'm not saying that we should go and blame the world and say that they owe us, because that's not my point. But I also don't think that we should carry the weight of, oh my gosh, it's my fault because I'm so stupid, I'm so weird, either. Nobody's fault, it's just what it is, right? So the more we try to fix ourselves, the more inadequate we feel. Interesting. It's like counterintuitive, right? We would think that we need to fix ourselves so that we feel less inadequate. But that's wrong. It works the opposite. What we do is we mask to try and hide it. We pretend that everything is okay. We do this so intensely because we figure that if we pretend and we hide those parts of us, that eventually it's all going to be true. For me, I thought that if I just hid the part of me that was weird and stupid, and I didn't think I could hide the part of me that was ugly at that time, but anyway, and tell myself to stop being so stupid and so weird and pretend that I was normal, that eventually my body and my mind would catch up to this and everything would be okay, and that's how it's just going to be. Sadly, this doesn't fix inadequacy. It reinforces it. That's how I ended up in such a rut of feeling inadequate in every way, shape, and form. Every time we mask what it is, when we mask, our brain tells us, see, the real you isn't good enough. That's why you need to pretend. Basically, that's what our brain is telling us, resulting in stronger feelings of inadequacy, feeling like we're wrong, feeling strong feelings of self-hatred, I tell you. I've been there. So how did this show up for me? Well, again, working in jobs where I overcompensated, but never felt like I was actually progressing anywhere. So I worked my tail off, but I never ever got anywhere. I never got those promotions. I never got anywhere. Trying to be social like everyone else, but feeling exhausted or more alienated and hating myself daily. Trying to be more social because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. I was told that's what I was supposed to do. You know, I'm sure you've been told, oh, well, you know, you just got to break out of your shell a little bit. Get out and live a little and then you'll feel better. Well, that's what I tried doing, but it made me feel worse. Believing that success meant following that normal, straight path as everybody else, but realizing after 16 years of doing this, that I was still in the same place as I was when I started. That was super disheartening. Trying to be better or fix myself didn't make me feel more worthy. It confirmed the belief that I was broken, that I was weird, that I was stupid. Confirmed all of that. So what nobody tells us about overcoming inadequacy. Now, this is things that I have learned along the way that I'm sharing with you that I discovered. We don't need to fix inadequacy. What we need to do is stop playing by the rules that were never made for us. Okay? So society builds all these rules for expectations that fits specific people. We aren't those people, in a nutshell. The real issue wasn't that I was inadequate. It was that I was constantly trying to measure myself to a standard that just wasn't designed for somebody like me. So I was never ever going to measure up because I just couldn't fit into that. Traditional success, like the 9-to-5 job, confidence, social rules, those sort of things, they're made for neurotypicals. It works really good for them. For us, the neurodivergents, not so good. We'll break our back trying to have success, and it feels like we're constantly hitting a brick wall. So we work very differently. INFJs and autistic people, we work very differently. Our growth, success, and fulfillment looks very different. It's not the straight. It's a very curvy path with lots of switchbacks and turns, and that's okay. And it's okay for it to look very different. So what I learned was I am not inadequate. I was never inadequate. I am just not compatible with the normal system. And that's okay. So instead of trying to force myself into a mold that I'm never going to fit into, I had to create my own path that worked for me. And I had to remember that the world doesn't determine my value, because that's what I used to think, that it determined my value. An example is I stopped forcing myself into traditional jobs. And I found fulfillment by creating my own INFJ-centered space. I'm not telling you to go and quit your job because it's not for you. If you're not finding fulfillment and you're not really happy and you're still struggling with this inadequacy, I'm not saying go quit your job. We all need to work. That's just life, right? We need income. Sadly, the world is built around money, unfortunately. But what I am saying is to find things in your life that will bring you fulfillment for you. And it may look very different than everybody else's, and that's okay. The things that will bring you fulfillment. And getting to a place where you can accept the fact that your life, your lifestyle, maybe your career, maybe there is going to be a shift in career coming up for you, maybe a different job, maybe there's something that you've been thinking about that you really, really wanted to do that you could do on the side along with your other job. But it's different. It's not traditional, and people are going to judge. And you know what? That's okay. Let them, because it is going to look different, very different for us, and that's okay. So the hard truth is the moment I stopped trying to live a life like everybody else's and stopped beating myself up about never getting anywhere was the moment I really, truly started to feel inadequate. And it was really interesting how it worked that way. So if you struggle with feeling inadequate, it's not because you are, even though you may feel that way, it's because you're stuck measuring yourself to a wrong system, measuring yourself by a wrong system. That's how I want to say that. So what we need to do is we need to shift from I'm not good enough or I need to fix myself to thoughts about wording it like, maybe I'm not broken. Maybe the path just looks different than everybody else's. And that's okay. I use it lots. I use the word okay lots. That's okay. That's okay. It's going to look different for me, but that's okay. So maybe we need to start building a life that works for us instead of forcing ourselves into a life that just drains us. These are some thoughts to consider, right? Maybe we're not broken. Maybe we just need a different life that's not forced into the same mold that society is forcing us in. Does that make sense? It makes sense in my weird brain. So do you struggle with feeling inadequate? I'm curious. And if you're brave enough, I didn't really want to say brave enough. If you're willing to, drop a comment. I would love to hear your story around this. Plus, others need to hear it. So never feeling good enough is a very lonely place to be. I know I've been there for a number of years. I spent many, many years, most of my life there. And I know that it's really nice to know that others feel the same way, especially when we can hear their journey. And it gives us hope. It gives us hope and it inspires us to take action. So by sharing your struggle of feeling inadequate, you're inspiring other people to feel better about themselves. And that is amazing when that happens. If this resonates with you, then stick around for my next video in this 3-part video series. We're going to be talking about how to stop feeling inadequate as an INFJ, an autistic INFJ. And it's by doing the opposite of what everyone else says. It's quite an interesting video, so I would love for you to join me. Thanks for sticking with me this long. Again, if you're interested in the INFJ meet and greet, the link is in the description of this video. Again, I invite you to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and feel free to share it. The more times it's shared, the more INFJs we get to help. And that's what it's all about. So thanks for joining me, and I'll see you soon with another video. Bye for now.